we've just designed an experiment. There's this new pill. You take this pill and you can lift more weight. So you guys just designed an experiment for this. We're going to randomly assign 15 people to get the pill. We're going to have the other 15 not get the pill. And then we're going to see how much weight they can lift. And if this group can lift way more weight than this group has, in other words, maybe these guys are lifting on average 400 pounds apiece. And the group that was just getting the placebo, they can only lift 110 pounds apiece. We've got statistically significant evidence it was the pill. Does anybody have any problems with this design? Can anybody come up with some other potential lurking variables here that, I mean, we did everything right here. This is a great design. But is there something in there that we may not get yet?
Yeah, you didn't measure how much they could lift beforehand.
That's a different kind of design, and that might be something we want to do. What you're saying is we're measuring their increase instead of how much they can lift. But remember, here's the deal. When we set up these groups, we're getting them homogeneous, right? So theoretically, they are lifting about the same to start, right? That's our goal, that these groups started out much the same. That was what the randomization was for. But keep that in mind. We're going to think about that a little bit later. Yeah?
Like an individual strength, like a 5-foot-tall guy naturally isn't going to like lift as much as like someone who's 6 feet tall.
Go further. I like where you're going, but go even a step further.
If you have some randomly really buff guy.
No, you beggar.
Gender?
What about?
Like if you have a bunch of girls in one group and guys in the
Yes! There is a huge difference between men and women and what they can lift. So let me give you an example of that. We might do everything great here. Really get it randomized. But the fact that I had 8 boys and 7 girls here, and I might have 7 girls and 8 boys here, just that one little bit of an advantage, that's why they won. Because they had more boys. That is a lurking variable. That is a huge variation in the original sample that randomization alone may not take care of. So when you have a situation and you're looking at your 30 to start with and you're saying, hey, wait a minute here. I could do randomization perfectly and I still wouldn't have homogeneous groups here. Just because of this one factor. It's too big a deal. We're going to change the experimental design and we're going to do what's called a block design. Now, I got a bunch of fancy words here, but I couldn't think of any other way to write it that didn't have all these crazy words. So let's go through this and see if this makes sense. When randomization alone won't create homogeneous treatment groups, because I've got just one avoidable variation in the experimental units. In this case, they're people. There's just one big deal. It's boys and girls. That's huge. So when we have a situation like that, perhaps a block design will give us better results. An example of a picture of a block design is on 302. So right off the bat, before we get started, I'm going to take that particular unavoidable variation, boys can lift more than girls, out of the equation. So I'm going to put the boys here and the girls here. Now wait a minute, real quick here. Some of you are going to do this on the next test. It's going to drive me crazy. Do I put this here?
No.
Why not?
You don't randomly pick one.
Yeah, they're either a boy or a girl, right? They're going to go to that group. They're going to go to that category. I can't, you know what I'm saying? So I think the book writes like the subjects. I mean, this is where we start. These will be the 30 people we start with. You know, mix them into boys and girls. Maybe I got 16, 14. I don't know what I got. Now, let's go run the complete experiment on both of them. Okay? So with the boys, I'm going to have the pill group, the placebo group, and then I'm going to see how much they can lift. Average weight lift. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I have the pills group. I'm going to have the placebo group. And I'm going to look at how much they can lift. Now, even even if it's a block design, to be a good experiment, I need randomization, replication, control. Where's my randomization going to be here?
When you after you split them up into genders.
Right.
the
So
boys.
right here, I should have left some space there. I'm going to have a random assignment, and I'm going to have a random assignment here. And you're going to talk about that in your randomization piece. Replication, I don't know how many boys I have here. You're probably going to want to equal them out, equal them out. You'll talk about that in replication. And then control, how are you going to treat the groups? It's going to be exactly the same that you had there. You're going to treat the groups exactly the same, and then you're going to do comparison at the end. Okay? So when do I use a block design? When I have got this crazy, uncontrollable variation in my subjects. I'm doing weightlifting, and I got boys and girls. Don't take the chance of randomly putting them in groups together, because that's going to be the reason why the one group can lift more than the other. It's not the pill! I've got a lurking variable now. Okay, so this is one type of block design. Yeah.
So basically, a block design calls for when you have like a subcategory, like
Yeah, when you have very different categories in this group, that is just, there's so much different. I've got a cancer pill, right? It's going to cure cancer. Well, I might want to break them up into two groups where it's people over 50 and under 50. You know what I'm saying? Because I think age is an incredibly large variable in those groups of how they're going to be able to respond to the medication. I'll test them separately.
Do you have to do a separate three-step write-up for each?
No. You just do one randomization. So you'll talk about how the randomization works for both of these in one randomization. Replication, you might have two different numbers you're using here, but you can just say it together in that. And the control is going to be exactly the same as it was before. Right?
Where do you talk about why you split them up?
What's that?
Where do you talk about, like, where do you say I
You show it, and you would talk about that in control.
Okay.
Okay, I separate the men and women because of boys can lift more than girls. So that's when we talk about that, how we do the comparison groups. Yeah.
If you're doing the digits, how do you know how many?
So how many boys I got here? I got 14 boys, 0, 1 to 14. I've got 37 girls.
So
Okay, now that's better. Okay, I think we all can agree this is a great design, but it has a big lurking variable. I think this is better. There might even be a better type of block design that we can use. For example, I heard you guys, some of you saying it earlier. What about a before-after test? Where I use the person as their own control. Right? I take a look at what they can lift when they come in. Then I'm going to give medication, and I'm going to see what they can lift after. So rather than looking at all these men, because maybe, these are all going to be men, okay, but maybe, I'll still have a problem with randomization, especially if I have a low number here, and getting homogeneous groups. So maybe I want to use each person as their own control. So for example, now this is what's called a matched pair design, where I take it down to the individual level. So you'll get a person. Okay, you got 30 people to start with. You're going to get somebody. You're going to test them all on how much they can lift. Now, where's the randomization going to come in here? How do we talk about randomization here? Where's the randomization? I still have to have randomization, replication, control. So where's the randomization going to be? Everyone's going to see how much they can lift. Yeah.
Would the randomization be on which boys and girls, or which boys would take the pill?
Yeah, so now here, just be careful now. If we do match pair, I don't care about boys and girls anymore. Each person's going to be compared against themselves. Okay, so I'm going to have, for each of the 30, I'm going to have what they can lift before, then I'm going to have them take a medication, and I'm going to see what they can lift after. So this would be a difference of 40. So I don't have to worry about boys and girls anymore. But where does the randomization need to come in? I still have to give half of them a placebo, right? So I'm still going to flip a coin when they come and make sure there's 15 and 15. So what I'm trying to say is when you do these designs, you still have to have randomization, replication, control. Yeah.
How do you take the weight of your subjects into account? Because it take a certain...
Well, once again now, with this or with this, I'm assuming that these will come out because of my random assignment. I'll have equal number of heavy light, equal number of heavy light. Now, if you decide, oh my gosh, that's too big a deal. then you may want to break them up into boys and girls, and then you break them up into heavy light, and then do the experiment on those.
Well, my question was more about how much of a pill it would take to actually have a difference in someone's strength.
Oh, how much medication you give?
Yeah.
Well, that's how many levels of this do you want to give? Do you want to give 500 milligrams, 400 milligrams? You might have a bunch of different treatment groups. That goes into the original design.
Okay.
Okay? So a match pair design is when you just look at the individual level and they can be one direction or another. Let me give you another example of match pair. So let's say I've got this, great new fertilizer. And this new fertilizer is going to give you more strawberries off your plants. Okay, it's fantastic. We want to test it out. So here's the environment we've got. I've got this greenhouse, and it's got this big window here. Okay, so the sunlight comes in here. And I've got these 8 plots. So I could do a completely randomized design. In other words, come to this plot, flip a coin, fertilizer, new fertilizer, old fertilizer. Come here, flip a coin, new fertilizer, old fertilizer. And then once I get 4 of one, I'd make sure I have 4 of the other. Now, why is this potentially going to cause me troubles? Yeah. Figuring that, yeah.
Because plants with direct sunlight grow faster.
So is it possible that all of these could get the new fertilizer and all of these could get the old fertilizer if I do a completely randomized design? And I have this huge lurking variable here, and that could be the reason I got more strawberries? So this is a little scary. And you're right, because I don't have a lot of plants, a lot of places. I mean, this could very easily happen, and that lurking variable could really hurt me, right? So I could do this. I could do a block design. I think that would kind of look like this. I cut them into 2 blocks. One side's going to get the new fertilizer. One side's going to get the old fertilizer. How would I determine that? How would I determine which gets which? Flip a coin. You got to have a random mechanism. You're not going to tell me the one on the left, are you? No! Got to have a random mechanism. Okay, somehow flip a coin, pick a number, do something. Okay, one side will end up with the new fertilizer and one side will end up with the old fertilizer. So blocking might be an outstanding way to do it. I think it's better than the original. But this one I think serves really good for a matched pair. Take a look at plot 1. Which plot is most alike plot 1? Which one has the most homogeneous environment to plot 1? Huh? Plot 1, but is there another plot that has very similar environment to plot 1? I think 4. The sunlight's coming in here. They're both in the top corners. So I think we match up 1 and 4. Flip a coin. One's going to get the new fertilizer. One's going to get the old fertilizer. How would you match up 2? 2 and 3. I'll match up 2 and 3 because they're the most alike, the most homogeneous. Now I'm going to flip a coin. I'd match up 5 and 8 and 6 and 7. That's a match pair design. Or I heard someone say, what's most like plot 1? Plot 1. I could do this match pair. Cut it in half. Flip a coin. One side new fertilizer, one side old. Cut them all in half. That's another example of matched pair. So you see my point? You're the designer of this. You've got to figure out the best way to go. Now, the one thing I'll say, if you're going to do a matched pair design, don't draw a picture. I can't figure out what a picture would look like, matched pairs. Don't worry about the picture part, but you're going to describe it in randomization, replication, and control. And remember, this is the big deal. When do I want to go block? Is when I have a big deal, some big difference. How much difference men and women can lift. What the sunlight does to these plots. That's a big deal. That's a huge lurking variable that I'm afraid randomization alone won't take care of. That's when I got to think about coming up with some sort of block design. So, if you have just a fully randomized design, you draw a picture. If we have a block design, we draw a picture. If you have a match pair, you don't draw a picture. But on all 3 of them, you're going to have randomization, replication, and control. And you're going to talk about that. Yeah?
If you have hundreds of, like a group of 100 or more, would we use the block?
So let's say we had 100 people to start with. For Do you feel safer with this now, rather than breaking them up into men and women? I don't think I would. I think there's men and women, how much they can lift is such a big difference. I think I would still block that. Now I know what you're saying. If the more I have over here, the more alike these are going to become. I agree. But it's when you have some lurking variable that's just the difference in the population is so big that I just want to take that out of consideration. Now I'll go to work. And like I said, you might think there's two things that are super important. You know, what their gender is and what you said, how much they weigh. You might block it twice. You have boys, heavy, light, and then you'll be doing the experiment 8 times. Okay. Okay.